Hello, it's me again. Your boy here just got done playing the Diablo 4 beta, and I want to talk about it. Jumping right into it, the first thing that I want to mention is that I've kind of broken this video up into a few different segments. So, the beginning, exploration, combat, and some limitations with the beta itself. I'm going to try to get through all this as quickly as I possibly can. I also have some B-roll that's going to be playing over this as I'm talking about it, so you get a reference of what I'm saying. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So first things first, logging into the beta, I was hit with the queue time. This is pretty normal, it's about 70 minutes. I don't think anybody expected anything different. After the queue time though, however, has given a lot of options to choose from, or a lot of options to change my chat and voice settings in the world, right? Not only with players, but also with NPCs. And I thought this was really important because as you will find is you can tell that the developers put a lot of time in making sure that you feel engaged in this world, and I thought that this was a really cool option to see to achieve that. I ended up playing Sork for my playthrough. I felt that I've already seen enough gameplay for Barbarian and Druid, and another class that was available was Rogue. However, that type of, game style, gameplay, the sneak, the backstab, that sort of stuff, not really my cup of tea. Now, I have seen gameplay footage of Rogue, and it's not necessarily like that. I guess it's more like Assassin in Diablo 2 than anything else. Still, though, I decided to play Sork, and I went with lightning skills. I picked fire, or I played with fire, I played frost, I played lightning, and just for me and my playstyle, I felt lightning definitely fit me the best. Now, going on from there, one of the things I want to point out is the character customization was also really great. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little, and it seems like that they found a really nice middle ground where most people are going to be able to get exactly what they need out of that character creation, and I think they did a really good job there. You will then be granted with how you want your world to play, meaning the difficulty. So there are two options, beginner and veteran. I decided to go with veteran just because I felt pretty good, playing Diablo before. I've been playing Diablo for a while. Not only that, the boons or the buffs that playing on veteran give you in the beta were very beneficial, and so for my purposes, I decided to go with that. Getting into the game, the visuals looked great, even for a beta. What I will say is I didn't really have any issues running the game whatsoever. And that was even, while I had B-roll recording in the background, right? Nothing too crazy. The game seemed very well optimized. I didn't really run into a lot of stuttering or lagging. There was a couple pop-in, I guess you could say, effects that happened every once in a while, but for the most part, the rendering of the game was amazing, and the visual, again, looked great. I'd also like to talk about the sound. I think that they're doing a really great job with voice acting and music in the game. I was pleasantly surprised to see both of those things, for the most part, pretty fleshed out. The NPCs definitely had character, and I think that the voice lines added a lot of impact to the story that they were trying to tell. For the story that they were trying to tell in the act. And when I say trying, they told a very good story. I'm not going to spoil anything in this video, but the voice acting did great, and the music, I think, was also very well composed and added to the overall environment. I loved the sound design.
The old ruins are clear. Your town should be safe now.
Truly. Ha! By the light, you are heaven sent. Oh, I'm so sorry. We haven't any coin to offer. But we have hot stew, good company, and...
Stay for a pint.
Wash out the taste of the stew. We'd be honored if you'd join us.
To our savior.
Now let's go ahead and talk into exploration. Exploration is going to be pretty straightforward. There's a lot to do in this world. It is open world. And now for me, that is not something that I'm used to in a Diablo game. I'm not really entirely sure if they did this with Diablo Immortal. I didn't really play that game or look into it too much. But what I will say is leaving town for the first time, I was pleasantly surprised to see someone wandering around. It reminded me a lot of Lost Ark, and I really enjoyed seeing that. Going out into the world, you'll find a lot of options and a lot of things to do, from gathering to markers and collectibles. There are visual environment markers that you can run into that will essentially allow your character to take in the scenery around them. Think Assassin's Creed, right? Like when you go to the towers and you do the thing, like the observation points, is pretty similar to that. There are also events in the open world. Now, one thing that I want to talk about with events, there are events in the open world and in your closed dungeons. You'll have the opportunity, maybe you go into a dungeon, you have a specific tile set, and that grants a certain percentage for something to spawn. That's what I mean by that event. However, they've gone one even further. There are events that will not be marked on your map, and they will not notify you that they are there. I'll give you an example. There was one dungeon where I was running, and I completed the story mission in that particular dungeon, but I noticed that there was a pedestal, and I clicked it, and it said it needed something to activate. So I continued to explore the dungeon, and I found the things that I needed to activate it, and it spawned a boss, and the boss gave me some really good stuff to put onto my character. The game didn't tell me that that was available to me, though, and that's what I mean. And so you can tell that the developers are really encouraging a lot of exploration, and over time, obviously, people are going to figure out what events do what, and what tile sets mean what. But what I am saying is for a beta, and just kind of stumbling upon that because I was curious, was really, really fun. Now, going on from there, the combat felt really great. Your character was heavy. It felt like your abilities mattered, which I think is really important to say. What I will kind of point out is it did remind me of Path of Exile just a little bit. Now, that's not a bad thing. Things felt responsive. The mechanics felt good. And if I died, I didn't really feel like it was because the game wasn't optimized. I found myself either saying, in the situation if I died, I found myself either saying, okay, next time I've got to avoid X, Y, and Z from this monster, or saying, okay, I'm not high enough level, I need to come back to this later. The game felt challenging, responsive, and good. Kind of going on from there, I want to talk a little bit about Lightning Sork and how those abilities wombo comboed with one another. Now, I didn't play any of the other classes, so I don't know if it's going to be true across the board. However, what I do want to let you know is that the abilities did feel very good, kind of channeling into one another, if that makes sense. So, and not in the sense where it's Diablo 3, where you're just sitting here and doing this the entire time to keep your passive buffs up so you can have one ability that clears an entire room, right? It's not like this, right? It's a little bit more methodical than that, right? Now, I'm not saying it's terribly difficult, but what I am saying is there's definitely a process to get the most, the biggest bang for your buck, right? To maximize your damage through and through. And so I'll give you an example of what I mean. So earlier, like I said before, I played a Lightning Sork. Lightning Sork, one of the first abilities they get is Shock. You can cast Shock, and when you cast Shock, it'll increase your crit chance by a certain percent. Then you unlock your next ability, and in this case for me, it was Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning, when it is cast, if it crits, it has a chance to drop a lightning orb. Once you pick up these lightning orbs, you get these charges, and if an enemy comes near you, essentially that charge goes off and it does damage. And it'll just continuously automatically activate by itself until you run out of charges, and you can continue to pick up lightning orbs even as these charges are being used. So it's not like it's limited in that sense, right? You can easily go down and go up and go down and go up. It's really cool. Then your third ability, Lightning Spear, which is a summon, can have its damage increased by 20% for every lightning orb that you pick up to 100%, right? And the reason why this is cool is because you do Lightning Spear and it's a summon, so it just basically flies around and goes and does damage to enemies. So let me put this in perspective for you. You cast Shock to increase the crit, then you do Chain Lightning, and it's bouncing back and forth between the hundreds of enemies that are on your screen. Lightning orbs are dropping, you picking those up, your character's automatically doing AoE, but because you're also picking up those lightning orbs, your Lightning Spear has 100% increased damage, it's flying around by itself, and you just rinse and repeat, right? And so once you kind of get that first set off, then it's Shock, Lightning Spear, Shock, Chain Lightning, Lightning Spear, collect the lightning orbs, and the amount of damage that you're outputting is absolutely insane. And I thought that was really, really fun. And it's definitely a stark difference from what we have in Diablo 3 right now, and I really enjoyed it. Let's talk about limitations. So there are some limitations in the beta itself. So first things first is you have access to only 2 difficulties. So you have access to beginner and veteran, nothing past that, which again makes sense. You only have access to Act 1. Again, we knew this going into the beta, which again makes sense. However, what I do want to say is once you finish the act, you do then have what's called challenges available to you. And I thought that was a pleasant surprise. It brings a little bit more of replayability to the game, and gives people, some things to do while we all wait for the next open beta or for the game to release. Finally, going on from there, the level cap of the game is 25. Or, sorry, the level cap of the beta is 25. From what I saw, the level cap of the game is going to be 50. It didn't really say anything about Paragon or anything like. Well, it does have an option for Paragon, but clicking on that menu wasn't available. So what that means and what it looks like, I wouldn't know. And I'm not entirely sure if Paragon's going to work the same as it does in Diablo 3. Let me go ahead and talk about my final thoughts with the beta. The beta was good. It was optimized. The gameplay felt great. The environment was engaging. I loved the overall world that they're currently building for Diablo 4. And I want to point out something, make no mistake, this game is dark, okay? It's brutal, and I loved it. They did a really great job of finding a balancing act, or a balance between Diablo 3 and Diablo 2. I will say, just for me, it seems like they did lean more towards kind of the Diablo 2 world and feel of that game over Diablo 3, which I think was a good overall choice. However, there are still some somewhat cartoony elements in the game, right? So this is going to be familiar to a lot of people. What I will say is this game actually makes me want to go back and play Diablo 2 again. At the end of the day, it is a beta, and it is difficult for me to form an opinion. There's a lot of really great things here, and the things that didn't work well, it's difficult for me to critique because it is a beta. I will say, overall, my impressions are good. So with that in mind, have you played the Diablo 4 beta? If so, go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you want it to come out tomorrow, or do you never want to see anything like this hit the shelves ever again? Why don't you go ahead and leave comments down below and let me know. Outside of that, again, my name is Tyler, and I will talk to you next time.